Hi everyone, welcome to this week's edition of the Recruitment Reality Podcast. Delighted that you're joining us, and I'm delighted to be having yet another global edition with Chandy. Where are you based, Chandy? What part of the US are you in?
I'm in Dallas, Texas.
Wow, so is it hot there? Like, it's freezing here. It must be better there.
Well, you can see I'm in sleeveless here today, so it is actually somewhat warm here currently. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's in the
Lucky
70s
you.
or
Lucky
so.
you.
Yeah, it's not bad. Come summertime, it'll be miserable.
Nice. So, sorry, say again?
It's like come summertime, it will be miserable.
Oh no, yeah, it'll be too hot, right?
Mm-hmm.
I actually can't imagine, but being a Brit, I'm sure we'll talk about it again. So look, thanks so much for coming on. I'm really delighted to have this chat with you, and obviously you've kind of used Willo for maybe a year, 18 months now, actually, or at least it feels like that long. So cool to have you on and obviously chat about what you do within your own business. Rather than sort of give an introduction that probably misses a few points, it'd be great if you could just give the audience a quick insight into, I guess, you and your background, and then also a little bit more about, your business.
Yeah, sure. My name's Chandy Tucker. Like I said, I'm from Dallas, Texas. I have worked in human resources, recruiting, and job search support for over 20 years. I have been a consultant for over the last 10 years. Prior to that, I worked for large corporations, KPMG. I've worked for small organizations as well and startups. I've done a lot of implementations of recruiting technologies and programs for different businesses here and abroad. And so that's kind of been my primary focus for my career. And it's something that I love doing. Like I said, I love to grow small businesses and startups from the ground up, and have done quite a bit of that work during my career. And using your technology with Willo has been, instrumental in all of that. And so, yeah, that's pretty much what we do. My company's name is Chandy Tucker Consulting. So that's really about it.
Yeah. Does what it says on the tin. Chandy Tucker does consulting, essentially, and helps people implement technology, recruitment, HR, etc.
That's what I do. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
And what kind of industries are you typically working in? Like, it's an interesting background, isn't it? Like KPMG, startups, all sorts of different organizations. Have you made like a conscious decision to, I have to be careful how I say it, niche down to like a specific industry?
Not a specific industry. No, not really. I choose who I work with and who we work with based off of, specific criteria more so than industry. The industry's not that, it's not that important. There's some that I stay away from just because I don't have a lot of experience in them. I'm not really familiar, but for the most part, any type of professional, related industry, anything that's going to be, office related, or even some blue collar, manufacturing type stuff is fine as well. But, we do a lot of engineering stuff, a lot of technical companies, SaaS companies, things like that.
Awesome. And what is the kind of criteria for you of what a good partner actually looks like that you would want to work with?
You want to know my criteria? I don't know if I want to say it on here. There's three things. There's three things that you to be a great partner for me. There's three things. It's you got to be easy to work with, you got to be easy to acquire as a client, and you got to be easy to get paid from.
That's three pretty good criteria,
right?
To be fair, I guess it must be a good thing to say on a podcast, Chandy, because it means everyone that you're working with has just had three compliments.
That's very true. Thank you for turning that around like that. That's perfect. That is true.
Nice. And what are you? Obviously, there's so much talk around what the kind of talent market in the US looks like, and where you are is a very interesting market at the moment. What are you kind of noticing as the kind of core challenges that you're typically helping people with?
Um, helping people or helping businesses, or do you mean both?
Businesses, yeah, helping businesses, I
Yeah.
guess.
Really just it doesn't really seem that different than what it normally is. I mean, hiring has kind of gone up and down, this year with everybody being fearful of a recession and whatnot, especially towards the beginning. But
Mm.
other than that, it's been pretty steady. We've had a lot worse times than now, and so um, it's a challenge, especially like the upper level positions that we tend to fill more of over here. Those are always a little bit more challenging than lower level types of positions, but the market itself has been good. It's been strong. Like I said, it's been somewhat up and down, but after 20 years of doing this, it's like I can't really complain.
Yeah.
It's like it's just another
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, I've been through this stuff
Yeah,
enough to know it's going to come and go, right?
I mean,
I do
2008
think it's,
was way worse.
yeah, well, I got a job 2010, start of 2010, which was like still in the depths of like how
Oh, it
crappy it
was.
was. The market was just awful.
I know. And we have had a lot of tech layoffs, and things of that nature, but it seems like things have kind of turned around a little bit and picking back up somewhat. So
Mm,
um, there seems
yeah,
to be more executives laid off right now than what I normally see, but um, again,
not too bad.
not too bad. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've kind of turned a corner with it potentially now the big tech giants have done their resets as such.
Yeah.
Um, everybody's getting back on an even keel.
Right. Yeah, exactly. We're not rich enough. Get off my payroll.
Yeah, exactly. Can't afford to do it anymore. So yeah, there's no more VC money coming in.
Yeah.
We need to actually try and make a profit.
Right.
Yeah, it's crazy, really, but how it gets to that point. But I'm sure we could debate that for a very long time. How do you? So I guess from you talked about how you help people implement technology, and obviously been using Willo. Um, I'd love to hear like a little bit about like your philosophy around technology. Like, what do you look for in technology to make it work well within an organization?
Really just whatever. It's obviously going to be specific, and custom to every organization's needs, and every organization has a little bit different needs depending on what other types of technologies they're currently using, what those technologies can pair well with and stack well with. Um, so I really just look and make sure that everything is going to be compatible, that all the different tech machines and softwares and whatnot can all speak to one another, that need to speak to one another, 'cause a lot of times we have to integrate, like payroll and time and attendance and all these other types of aspects, benefits, upkeep, and things of that nature. And so you know what you guys do with interviewing and whatnot, and recruiting, using applicant tracking systems and things of that nature as well. Just making sure all of the different pieces can work well together and speak to one another, or they're all coming through one system, together, or one platform
Mm.
together. It just has to be cohesive and work well for them. As long as it works well for them, it works fine for me.
Have you like seen obviously across a 20-year career you will have seen changes, but over the last sort of like 3 years, have you seen like an explosion of choice almost of like technology that you can use?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I mean, the tech space has just blown up, especially since COVID. The sheer number of applicant tracking systems and interview platforms and PEOs and, just there's so many things to choose from now. It's
Mm.
like a kid in a candy store, which is good for me because a lot of businesses, they don't know what these technologies are that are available. They don't know what to go out there and look for. They don't know who's good. And so someone like myself that tries to keep up with, who's doing what, AI sourcing tools, for recruiting and things of that nature, like keeping up with all of that has been really instrumental in helping my clients, save a lot of money, save a lot of time, save a lot of headaches when it comes to their hiring processes.
Just on AI, what do you think? What do you think the future of AI and recruitment technology actually will be?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I hope it does, a lot more than it currently does. Honestly, I'm sure that it will.
Really?
Yeah, I do. I just because I feel like as humans, I feel like it's never going to take our jobs away, like people, always said or worried about or whatever. I've never worried about that because I feel like we're an adaptive species, by nature. And so if the better the AI gets in recruiting, I feel like we're just going to keep getting better at recruiting as humans as well. And so I think it's going in recruitment, especially, I think it's going in a good positive direction. I think it's helpful for the most part, especially when it comes to like sourcing talent and, trying to find like hidden undercover talent type of stuff. AI is really, really beneficial in that. I remember back in the day, whenever we were posting ads in newspapers, we had like 260 characters that we could put into an ad, and you had to like figure out how you're going to attract somebody with your 260 characters and hope that somebody sees it in the newspaper, to show up. So like we've come such a long way from there that I can't help but just be hopeful and optimistic and think that things are, I think it's going to be great. It's been great already. So it's a really helpful tool. Recruiters today, when they
Yeah,
just
that's
started, like
awesome.
they have no idea how good they have it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I mean, I even in 2010 when I first started, LinkedIn was not really used, to be honest, not in the UK anyway. So it was like, where do you find this talent? And you're like, not really sure. Like Monster was the job board that was kind of emerging and stuff like that. But overall, it was like, I have no idea
Where do I
where
go?
to
Where do I find
look.
these?
And
Yeah.
yeah, and we used to still get our contracts faxed to us. Now, if you said fax to somebody that's just joined the workforce, they wouldn't know what you were
What
talking
was
about.
fax? What was fax?
Yeah.
What?
I used to love it though, because you'd hear the fax machine ring and you didn't know whose order was coming through, right? So you're like, wow, it could be mine.
Yes, that's so true. You get resumes by fax as well. You're like, oh, yes, maybe somebody's sending me a great resume now. You just have stacks of papers on your
Yeah, wow.
desk.
It is crazy to think about how far it's come, and and I think it's just really accelerated. So it's and a lot of people, I genuinely believe, are still afraid of like recruitment technology, especially the AI sourcing stuff that you're talking about.
Right.
So it's really great that you've got the opportunity to basically talk them through that and really help them find, okay, what's the technology that's going to work for them. What advice would you if you just gave broad advice to somebody looking at their technology stack right now? What's the kind of first thing that you start with when you're having these conversations?
What's working for you and what's not? What's your end goal? Um, if your hiring process is bottlenecking somewhere, if it's stagnant, if it's just incredibly difficult to find people, just identifying what that main source of problems are, and starting there. Most of the time, it's a finding talent type of situation. Most people don't seem to have like communication barriers or issues, like mediums of being able to communicate and whatnot. Compliance has, become more of an issue in the past couple of years or so with making sure everything is compliant hiring wise. But yeah, I would just say start with the problem and go from there. What's working for you, what's not.
Awesome. Yeah, it sounds so obvious, but people get so stuck in what technology is out there, as opposed to what's the problem that I actually have,
Right.
if that makes
Yeah,
sense. Like they go
exactly.
straight to the solution rather than going, what's the actual problem?
Yeah.
And I think that's a very core thing to the successful implementation of technology is like, what do we actually need? Like, not what looks shiny and cool.
Right, exactly. Well, I mean, that's
What
how
do we really
companies
need?
are created, is, to solve a problem. And so I feel like that's the best place to start is, you know, knowing what your problem is, knowing
Yeah.
what you want your solution to be, if possible.
Yeah. If you ever buy a bit of technology that somebody just thought was a bright idea, not a piece of technology that they thought was overcoming a problem, you've probably bought the wrong technology.
Absolutely.
Is the reality.
Exactly.
And I'm keen to just, I guess, touch on Willo and how you use it. And obviously, you said very kindly, completely unprompted, that it was instrumental. So I very much appreciate you for saying that. But how do you actually implement and use asynchronous video, Willo, etc.
Yeah.
in your world at the moment?
Sure. I came across Willo when I was already using a different platform for interviewing, but I wasn't super happy with it. And I won't mention their name just to be kind. But there was nothing wrong with them. They didn't have all of the capabilities that I wanted and needed for my clients. Willo specifically has been, like I said, instrumental in company growth for my clients. We've used it for first and second round interviews for several years, and by being able to pre-record, our questions, making sure that everything is streamlined, everything is structured, making sure that everything is clear, compliant. It's all in one place. We can add, users to the process easily. Within our team, we can add teammates easily. Just your capabilities that you guys have put on the platform itself, and the quality of it is it's better than anybody's, really, in my opinion. So we've used Willo to grow. Like one of my clients' businesses from, I don't know, I want to say there's like around 20 or so people whenever we started using Willo, and we grew it to like over 50, 60 people, in a short amount of time because of your
It's
technology, being
amazing.
able to streamline that. And, and this particular company was going from like the dark ages to modern day, everything. And so that was really exciting to be able to, to see them use Willo to, to increase their headcount and flourish as a business. So I know that they have since grown even further, and they've added on different entities as well. And so I know that they've been really grateful
Amazing.
to use your platform also. But yeah, Willow's awesome.
I'm sure. Thank you. I'm sure there was some Chandy Tucker in there as well. It wasn't just Willo, but I appreciate the shout out
Well, I couldn't do it
nonetheless.
without Willow existing. So I'm just in the background. Don't mind me. It's fine.
I think, and it's interesting when you say like the fact that they were kind of coming from the dark ages. Do you think so? One of our like core focuses, and this is more of a completely personal interest than a podcast interest question. Do you think one of the main reasons why they kind of enjoyed Willow is because we kept it so simple
Yes.
as a product? Like it's not intimidating to use, right?
Yes, exactly. 100%. That was one of the first things that the owner and the CEO mentioned to me, was just how clean the interface was, how simple it was to use. And it wasn't just junked up with a whole bunch of, you know, messages and jargon and whatever, it was very streamlined and simple, very easy to implement,
Mm.
get started on, continue using, teach somebody and train somebody how to use, just the whole thing.
Yeah, amazing. I think it's so funny because the longer we exist, the harder it becomes to keep the platform simple.
Yes.
Because the more features people ask for, the more things we want to adapt and change and do better. it's like every time you add something, you almost have to take something away.
Yeah.
To make sure that you're staying true to that kind of simple ethos, which is like mega tough,
Right. Well, and you
for
guys did
sure.
add some features, not long ago with which you added exit interviews, I believe, and did y'all add stay
Yeah.
interviews as well, or just exit ones? I don't remember.
Well, yeah, we kind of adapted the platform so that you could use it a bit more flexibly, basically. I mean, the main things that we've kind of added is like multiple question types. So it's like
Right.
text-based questions and audio only and file uploads, and then we also do ID verification and stuff too. So um, getting that, what used to be create a video question is now create one of 5 types of question. And it's like, how? And then you've got how much thinking time do you want? We never had that before, and
Yeah.
all of that stuff. It's like, how do you keep that simple and easy to use? But hopefully it has remained simple.
Yeah. No, it has, and I like that we can give the candidates and ourselves options as to how we want to handle those aspects. That how long do we want them to know the questions ahead of time or not? How much time do we want to give them to think? Do we want to let them re-record themselves if they mess up whenever they're recording their answers? It takes a lot of pressure off of the candidates as well whenever you can kind of be lenient on some of those things. It's not quite so much on the spot pressure.
Yeah. Do you find most of your candidates have never done anything like Willo before, or have they done asynchronous stuff?
Oh, half and half, probably. Honestly, some of them have, some of them haven't.
Mm.
The ones that have, they're like, "Oh, that's no big deal. I could do that again, no problem." And the ones that haven't, they're like, "What is that? I have to do what?" I'm like, "No, it's really not that big of a deal. Like, trust me." And they're like, okay. You do it,
Yeah.
and they're like, "Oh,
It is funny how like once the people that had so the 50% of people that hadn't done it before, what's their feedback on the process? Like, how do they feel once they've actually completed it and got over that initial like, whoa, this is weird, I'm videoing myself.
right." Yeah, I mean, then they don't think it's a big deal at all. They're like, What was I worried about? What was I scared of? Like that was no big thing. So they all liked it after the fact, after they realized what it actually was.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because it's such a common objection, like our candidates won't want to do it or whatever. But I've never met a candidate who really wanted to do a telephone interview either. Just
I've never met a candidate that really wants to do an interview, period, for the most part. I mean, some of them
yeah,
like it, but most people are like, they're kind of squeamish about interviews, period.
yeah, absolutely. So look, I guess it would be good to kind of round off the conversation with just some hints and tips, really. So if you were to look at an organization that maybe is kind of stuck in the dark ages, hasn't really breached into looking at what technology they can use, and I guess you've probably given me this advice, or any advice to candidates that are looking to embrace a new technology. What bits of advice would you give to those people or organizations?
um, for organizations stuck in the dark ages still, or just getting started out and they just don't really know like where to turn or what technologies they should be looking into, I would tell them to you know, do what is going to make things simple. Keep things as simple as possible. Make it easy on yourself. You know, if you don't have a recruiting partner or an HR partner or something, consultants are fantastic resources, for that, especially today in this day and age. Like I'm a consultant on Upwork as well, and I'm in their top 1% of recruiting and HR consultants.
Oh
Yeah.
wow!
Oh, thank you. And so I'm expected top
Congrats!
1%. So, but I'm lumped in with a good group of people, because we all of us as consultants, like we have a community there as well. And so I know that the talent there is really amazing. And so, lean into consultants and freelancers to help you out with this type of stuff. As far as technology is concerned, like I said, keep it as simple as possible, but keep it compliant. If you don't know what compliance stuff you need to be adhering to, then again, get a professional on your team. You don't have to hire somebody outright, full time or even part time. Just get them on a project by project basis or for an implementation purpose. And those of us that are working with these different organizations regularly, and all of the various technologies that they implement and have already, that we're keen to a lot of different technologies and options available, that are out there.
No, I love that advice, and I think especially in the US at the moment, compliance has become more and more complicated with privacy laws, with obviously the remuneration laws in certain states, all sorts of things that you really do have to think about as an employer now, and you certainly don't want to get caught out. And the people like yourself that are, on the pulse of these challenges, if you're on Upwork, you can work on specific projects to just make people compliant, right? And that could be one of the most valuable things that you did as a business.
Absolutely. Right. Exactly. And also if you're in the US or abroad and you're looking for like a full service type of, all-in-one encompassing solution, then, going with a PEO is never a bad thing. That those are fantastic at helping you stay compliant and taking on some of that risk, for you. And there's like, especially in the US, there are so many PEOs available today now, professional employment organizations. There's over 1,000 of them just in the US alone.
Wow.
And so,
that's incredible.
Yeah, there's plenty to choose from, that's for sure. And, some are certified in different things and some aren't, and some offer legal support and some don't. And they're all very different, but again, that's something else I can help you with. If you want to.
There you go. I was going to say, it sounds like you know what you're talking about, Chandy, when it comes to PEOs. So, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And thank you for the kind words about Willo. It would be good just to get, I guess, if somebody does want to get in contact with you directly, or has a challenge that they want to just ask you about, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
You can email me directly if you like. My email is Chandy, CHANDY, at ctuckerconsulting.com, or you can go to my website, www.ctuckerconsulting.com. We also have
awesome.
Another website that's associated with C. Tucker Consulting, with CTCHR, as we call it, which is Black Sheep HR, and that is our candidate support division, individual support division that are not businesses.
Amazing.
Yeah, and that's blacksheephr.co. If you're an individual wanting like resume help or LinkedIn optimization or whatever it may be. So
very cool. Yeah. You're a serial entrepreneur, Chandy. It's amazing.
It's what I do. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for it. And again, appreciate Willo and your platform and everything that you guys are building on it and doing with it. It's paramount. It's for us. So we love it. Thank you.
Chandy, that's so good to hear. Honestly, when you sent me the LinkedIn message saying how instrumental it had been, I was honestly blown away. It was awesome. And this is why we, everything you've talked about is why we started the business, to help candidates be seen by employers, to help employers come out of the dark ages and hire the right people, and to help people like yourself obviously grow and automate your business and basically win back time, because you probably couldn't service quite as many people if you didn't use it. So
absolutely, I have that letter right in front of me to read to your audience here.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. It was all honest and true, though.
Yeah, it was so nice, honestly, and thank you so much. And look, to everybody that's listening, Chandy is really awesome, such a positive energy. And if you are looking for any type of HR recruitment, etc., project or otherwise help, please do get in contact with it. Don't forget to like and subscribe the podcast or YouTube, wherever you're watching this. And we will see you again next week. Thanks for listening.